Okay, welcome back. I wanted to do a kind of a continuation of the previous video. I think all these videos will be continuations of the previous video. But anyway, I wanted to expand on the idea of the stone, and the stone being a picture of Messiah, of Yeshua, of Jesus. You believe it or not, but just look at the scripture and it will reveal itself. I'm not even going to embellish it, really, to be honest. It's going to be all here. So I want to. This is the word here for stone. It's eben. So it's strong 68 number 68 in the concordance. Eben. Now, first of all, first of all, take a look at the word aben. It's aleph. Bet. I wish I could zoom in on that a little bit, but anyway, concentrate on that Hebrew word aben. It's aleph bet nun. So aleph bet nun, or as you're looking, aleph bet nun. We'll go to the Hebrew alphabet, the alphabet. This is the aleph. It's the first letter in the alphabet. Bet is the second letter in the alphabet, and nun is the 50th letter in the alphabet. 50, the Jubilee. Aleph, the first letter, it's a representation of strength. It's a representation of Adonai. Aleph is God. It's the God number. And remember, God or Jesus said that he was the Alpha and Omega. He wouldn't have said that. He would have said, I am the Aleph and Tav, the first and the last. So the first is the Aleph. He is Adonai, God. Tav is a cross or a sign. He is God on a cross, the Aleph, Tav. There you go. So Bet, if we go for the Aben, it's the Aleph, Bet, Nun. So Aleph, the letter for God, for Adonai. Bet Nun is the Hebrew for Ben, which is son. So Bet Nun is the son of Aleph, God. So if we go back to Eben, Aleph Bet Nun, it's the son of God. The Ben Aleph, Aleph Bet Nun, Aben. So here's Ben, here's son, is the Hebrew for son. Bet Nun. So it's stone that we're talking about in Hebrew, in the Hebrew scriptures. Anywhere you see stone, you can see the Son of God. I'm going to show you that in so many occurrences. It's the Son of God. Okay, so I've gone over the alphabet and the meanings. Let's go to Eben. So here is the occurrences. The occurrences of the word stone itself without any prefixes or suffixes is 57 occurrences. Nothing is a coincidence in God's word. Nothing is a coincidence. There's no such thing. Actually, there's no word for coincidence in the Hebrews, in the scriptures. There's no word. Nothing is a coincidence. 57, 5 and 7. The number for 5 is the meaning of 5 in scriptures is grace. The meaning of the number 7 in scriptures is completeness. So it symbolizes completeness, imperfection, both physical and spiritual. So Eben, the stone, appears 57 times. It is grace and completeness. And what does Jesus say when he died on the cross? It is complete, or it is finished. So that's just a nice kind of cherry on top, if you want to. So I'm going to go to the first appearance here, and it's Psalms 118. So I will praise you, for you have answered and become my salvation. And in the word salvation is Yeshua. Salvation is Yeshua. Yeshua is Messiah, is Jesus. So that's how you spell his name, Yod Shin Vav Ayin. It's actually the Aramaic. The Hebrew is Yehoshua. So it's the same But there you go, salvation. And so interesting, in Psalm 118, you have salvation and stone in the same grouping of same couple of lines. So I will praise you, for you have answered and become my salvation, my Yeshua. The stone rejected by the builders has become the chief cornerstone. The stone rejected by the builders has become the chief cornerstone. This is it's a hint that the Hebrews are going to reject the stone. Okay? It's a prophecy. And they rejected the stone. So the Aben, there it is, the Aben, Aleph Bet Nun, the Aleph, God, Ben, Son of God. The Son of God, rejected by the builders, has become the chief cornerstone. Okay? So that's a beautiful first introduction. It's not the first mention in the scriptures, but it's a nice way to start. Okay, so let's go on to Exodus 31:18. And he gave unto Moses, which he had made in the end of speaking with him on the Mount Sinai. Sorry, I'm speaking from the interlinear here, so yeah, I don't have the actual chapter. So it's where Moses went up onto the Mount Sinai and received the stone tablets written on by God. The law was written on stone. The law was written on 2 tablets of testimony, tablets of stone. The law was written on stone. Eben was written on the Son of God. Jesus completed the law. he fulfilled it. And it was written with the finger of God. So this God wrote on the stone, pointing to the stone, literally pointing to the stone with his finger. Look at the stone. And all you have to do is look across scriptures. Anywhere the stone is mentioned, you see the Aben, the Son of God, the Aleph Ben. Okay, so let's move on. Here is Genesis 49. And this is, Joseph is a picture of Messiah. Okay? He's thrown into a pit. He raises up. He becomes king. It's a picture of Messiah. All right? So Joseph, this is the prophecy that Jacob speaks over Joseph before he dies. Joseph is a fruitful branch by a spring. Its branches hang over a wall. The archers provoked him. They shot at him and were hostile towards him. But his bow remained firm, and his arms were agile. From the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. This is a prophecy saying that Messiah is going to come from the line of Joseph, which he does. And he is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. The stone, again, Aben, is Messiah. And there is. Here it is again. It's in the interlinear. The mighty one of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the Roeh, the stone, the Aben of Israel. The stone of Israel is the shepherd, the promised shepherd, the Messiah. Okay, so let's move on. Here is Exodus 17. This is the miraculous battle against Amalek. So Amalek is one of these, Amalekites, the king of the Amalekites, came and fought against Israel. And so Moses said to Joshua, "Choose men for us and go out and fight against Amalek. Tomorrow I will station myself on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." Joshua did as Moses told him and fought against Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. So it came about when Moses held up his hands that Israel prevailed, and when he let his hands down, Amalek prevailed. So Moses' hands were heavy. So they took a stone, and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands on one side and on the other. So his hands were steady until the sun set. And Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this in a book as a memorial and recite it to Joshua, that I will utterly wipe out the memory of Amalek from under heaven." And Moses built an altar and named it, "The Lord is my banner," because the Lord has sworn. And by the way, when the Hebrews built altars, they built them out of stones, and they didn't carve them, and they didn't chisel them. They were told you cannot chisel a stone to build an altar. And they didn't put steps up to them either. They had to build ramps up with stones. They had to keep the stone intact. All right? All right. So here is Moses. They took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on the stone. And when Moses sat on the stone and had his hands stretched out, and he had one person on either side of him on top of a mountain, it's a picture of the crucifixion. It's a picture of how God defeats the enemy. God defeats the enemy with his stone, with the hands raised up, with a person on either side. You can't get much clearer than that. Exodus 17:12. There are no coincidences in scriptures. There's no coincidence whatsoever. Everything is there for a reason. Every single word is there for a reason. Every single misspelling is there for a reason, because there are words intentionally misspelt in the Hebrew scriptures. It's all there for a reason. So Exodus 17, yeah, this is where this stone was placed under Moses. The stone is the Aleph Ben. The Aleph Ben is the Son of God, the Eben. Okay, we go to Genesis 29. Getting shivers doing this. Okay, so Jacob, this is where Jacob meets his wife, Rachel. All right. Jacob set out on his journey and went to the land of the people of the east. He looked and he saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying beside it, because they watered the flocks from the well. Now, when the stone on the mouth of the well was when the stone, or now the stone on the mouth of the well was very large, or was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, they would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and then they would put the stone back in its place on the mouth of the well. Have a guess what the stone is there. So they would be gathered there, all the flocks, and they would roll the stone, Haben, the Aleph Ben, from the mouth of the well and water the sheep. And then they would put the stone, the Haben, the Aleph Ben, on the mouth of the well again. So the stone that waters, Jesus said, "Believe in me, and rivers of living water will flow from you." The stone, the Son of God, feeds or waters the sheep. Now, remember a story from the New Testament where Jesus meets the Samaritan woman. And by the way, go back to Genesis 23 where Jacob is Israel. God changed Jacob's name to Israel. So Jacob is Israel. And he had the 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel. His wife was not an Israelite. His wife, he had 2 wives. In fact, he had 4, but the wife he wanted was not an Israelite, Rachel. She was a Gentile. Okay? There were no Israelites. Okay, so let's get on. That's a whole other video. I shouldn't have mentioned that there. It's a whole other video, and I'm going to do that next. in the genealogies are the sons of Israel. Okay, but it's interesting how there's a swap out done where Laban, Jacob goes to marry Rachel. Rachel being a picture of God taking Israel as his wife. So Jacob goes to marry Rachel, and then Laban switches out the two daughters and he gives him Leah first. Leah, her name means sprinkled, and Rachel, her name means trouble. So the wife of Jacob, this picture of Messiah also, is swapped out, and Jacob gets this sprinkling first, and then afterwards he gets trouble. I'm going to go into that in the next video, but it's so revealing. So anyway, Jesus, let's go back to the watering of the flocks at the well, where the stone is rolled over and covered over. So Jesus realized that the Pharisees were aware that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, and although it was not Jesus who baptized, but his disciples, he left Judea and he returned to Galilee. That just there, it was not Jesus who baptized, but his disciples. That just means that baptism itself is not a guarantee of salvation, okay? Baptism doesn't infer on you salvation, only belief does. Jesus said, believe in me and you will be saved. He left Judea and he returned to Galilee. Now he had to pass through Samaria, the Gentiles, the land of the Gentiles. So he came to the town of Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of the ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Joseph, a picture of Messiah. Since Jacob's well was there, Jacob and the well, Jesus was weary from his journey, and he sat down by the well. The sun by the well, the aben, the stone by the well. It was about the 6th hour. When a Samaritan woman came out to draw water, Jesus said to her, give me a drink. His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. You're a Jew, said the woman. How can you ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered, if you knew the gift of God and who is asking you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Sir, replied the woman, have you nothing to draw with this? You have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. And then, where will you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? Yes. Who gave us this well and drank from it himself, and as did his sons and his livestock. And Jesus said to her, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become a fount of water springing up to eternal life. And then the woman says, sir, give me this water that I will not get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. So again, we have the picture, the son, the Aleph Ben, the son of God, sitting beside the well, talking about rivers of living water flowing out. Okay. And this is where the Samaritan woman, the Gentile woman, figures out that Jesus is the Messiah. Are you the promised one? Okay, let's go on. This is Daniel 6. Daniel 6, I went over Daniel 6 previously, but the stone, Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, and a stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the rings of his nobles, so that nothing concerning Daniel could be changed. So Daniel was thrown into a pit, and a stone was rolled over. Why is there so many references to stones being rolled over pits or holes in the ground? And this stone, again, is the Aleph Ben, the Aben. I could go to the interlinear there, and well, I've showed you that before. But anyway, this is a stone that was brought over and placed over the mouth of the den. So that stone is an Aleph Ben again, a son of God. Now, this is Matthew 27, where Jesus is buried. Now, when it was evening, a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself has also become the disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus, and Pilate ordered it to be given to him. And Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a linen cloth, and laid it in his own new tomb, which had been cut in the rock. So picture a rock, a cliff face, a rock, and this pit had been cut into it. And they rolled a large stone against the entrance of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary sitting opposite the tomb. So Jesus' body was took and placed in a rock, in a cliff face, and a stone was rolled over. So all the references to stones, when stones being rolled over in scriptures, they're all pointing to Messiah. Jesus gets buried in a rock, in a mountain, and a stone was rolled over. And I'm going to point out the mountain and the stone again. I'm going to finish with this. So this is Daniel 2 in Nebuchadnezzar's dream. So Nebuchadnezzar, you continued watching. This is where Daniel is explaining the dream. You continued watching until a stone was broken off without hands, and it struck the statue on the feet of iron and clay and crushed them. And then the iron and the clay and the bronze and the silver and the gold were crushed into pieces, all at the same time, as they were like chaff from the summer threshing floors. To the wind carried them away, and not a trace of them was left or was found. But the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and was filled the entire earth. The stone that struck the statue became a great mountain. Now, first of all, the stone is the Aben again, the Son of God, comes back, destroys the kingdoms of the universe, or kingdom, sorry, of the world. And the stone becomes a mountain. This, I think, is a depiction of how the stone, the Aleph Ben, or the Son of God, the Aben, is God. It becomes the mountain. But look further on here, where he explains, he gives the interpretation of the dream. The divine kingdom. And in the days of those kings of the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. In that you saw the iron mixed with clay. Yes, okay. Now here it is. 45. Just as you saw that the stone was broken off from the mountain without hands. So this stone that comes to destroy the kingdoms of the world was broken off of a mountain. It was taken off of a mountain without hands. This Aleph Ben, this Son of God, was taken off of a mountain. The mountain representation of God. So the Son of God, the stone, comes from the mountain, and it crushed the kingdoms of the world. And then he says, the stone, let's go back to the dream itself, but the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the earth. So not only was the stone taken off of a mountain and goes to earth to destroy the kingdoms of the earth and create his own kingdom, the stone itself becomes a mountain. It becomes God. But now, go back to this stone again is the stone is the Aleph Ben. It's the Aben. It's the Son of God. Now go back to Matthew, where Jesus is buried, and Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a linen cloth, and laid it in his own new tomb, which had been cut out of the rock. And he rolled a large stone against the entrance of the tomb and went away. The stone in Daniel that's taken from the rock comes down, destroys the kingdoms of the world. His body is put back into a rock, and a stone is rolled over. And there is the stone being the picture of Messiah. Now, I gotta go. I hope you enjoyed that. The stone, the Aleph Ben, the Aben is Messiah, is Jesus. And throughout scriptures, anywhere you see the Aleph Ben, the Aben, the Son of God, the stone, the Son of God, the stone that the builders rejected, has become the cornerstone. And Daniel just told you how. See you later.